The funny thing too about being here is like people are most of the time just like in their own world.
Yeah.
So you could be like on the subway and see like a naked person and people would just be like, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know?
I know. I've noticed that with my
It kind
daughter.
of teaches you to have like that guard up of just like.
And don't engage. She's always like, Mom, don't engage.
Like when I first moved here, I was like, should I be like talking to people on the subway, like asking them about their day? And my friend was like, no, man. Like,
although I will say,
yes, I remember we talked about this.
I know. I have had some incredible subway moments.
I love that.
And so there's part of me too that's like eye contact with certain people, right? You get the vibe check of like, okay, this is somebody that has a story that I want to hear.
And that story too, I think resonated for me, just hearing you talk about like going out of your way to say something to a stranger on a subway and like how that ended up making your day, making her day. And
fantastic.
You guys
human.
are like still in touch.
Yeah, we're still in touch.
So
I know.
Cool.
It is amazing. There's like an active love here that's different because I think my stereotypes of New York are like everyone out for themselves, cutthroat, competitive, wheelin', dealin', dangerous, some like vibe. And it's been the opposite. The way people hold doors and help me with luggage and let me go for, just the kindness is radical kindness I have experienced in New York more than Kansas City.
Yeah. You don't expect it.
No.
But it's definitely
maybe
present.
That's part of it. It's shocking because you don't expect it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
Well, I'm glad you're here and grateful for your time. Bunch of different ways we could take this conversation. I know we've chatted offline about a lot of different things, but I wanted to start with purpose.
Yeah.
And the reason being, like, I think over the last 2 years, I've had my own journey of like, quote unquote, trying to find purpose. Yeah. And what I realized is like, well, I guess I'm in the process of still realizing like sometimes purpose looks different to different people. So I wanted to start with just like loosely how you think about purpose and what it has shown you in your own work. And then we can dive into.
I resonate so much with your podcasts on you finding purpose and reinventing yourself and taking this leap of faith from leaving private equity and going into your creative genius.
Thanks, Ginger.
I've struggled with it too. I think if I just mapped out on a timeline, I kind of reinvent myself every 3 to 4 years. Up until the last 10 years, I had that pattern. So through, changing majors in college, from pre-med to business, from but I feel like I'm a teacher, but that didn't align. And so I guess I've always had this churn that there's something I'm supposed to be doing and I haven't found it yet. And then that really switched. These last 10 years, I feel like I finally found my purpose. But until then, I resonate so much with what you've been going through. And I think to me, it says there's a calling in there and you're following the breadcrumbs of the calling. Like, okay, there's this, and then you try something else. That wasn't it. Okay, come back to this, and then there's this, and then there's this. To me, that's how you find purpose. And I have this idea that it's not like this career we're supposed to have and you miss it if you don't get it right. There is a service within you for humanity, and you're trying to figure out what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So purpose to me is how am I here to serve humanity? And it might be, every job in a sense serves humanity, right? We're all keeping the human machine moving in our various ways, from janitors to baristas to teachers to healthcare workers. So everyone's found their lane of service. And when it's not when you don't feel that meaning or alignment, to me, that's just a sign I got off track and I need to come back into alignment. And I think everyone has the answers within them. All the answers are within you. We search for them somewhere else or in a book, but after working with humans for 10 years, the last 10 years, I'm like, everyone does have the answers. We just have to bring them up to the surface. Our soul has all the answers. So your soul knows your purpose. And your job is to excavate that, to dig through all of the expectations that have been put up on you, the conditioning you've received through the parents, teachers, coaches, life, and figure out who am I and what's my soul purpose. And so it's not a vocation, but it's a spirit, maybe.
Yeah, no, I think that is so well said. I think especially the point on purpose being a service. I think that's something that
Okay.
I really resonate with, especially now, just because like through this process, a lot of the focus was just like on me
Yeah.
and like, what is my purpose? And
Yes.
I don't want to say maybe like self-obsession,
Yeah.
but just like trying to figure it out with
Right.
like a closed fist instead of like
Right.
an open palm, and thinking more about like the service to other people and interpreting it more of like a calling. So I think that's very well said. And the other point that I loved is just like turning within to the heaven within, and like doing that soul searching on our own to follow those breadcrumbs and find that path. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing the last 10 years with Compassion Fix and how that shows up in your life?
So so I guess it's like 13 years ago, I turned 40 and I decided to go to seminary. And that was a big leap of faith. I didn't know why, but I wanted to study theology. And it felt like that was the breadcrumb of the day to follow. And so I thought I had tried so many things. So Big Six consulting firm, adjunct professor at Xavier in Cincinnati for 5 years, pharmaceutical sales, stay-at-home mom, interior design. I was searching through it all.
You got it all.
Yep. And then at 40, I was like, okay, what next? And I had this big pull to study something, to go back to school. So I'd done my MBA, but that didn't have purpose and meaning in it to me. And I wanted to go back to school, and I wanted to study something deep and hard and challenging and existential. And so theology. And my husband actually suggested it. He was like, "What about seminary?" I'm like, "Isn't that a Catholic thing?" And like, a priest go to seminary? And so I Googled at the time seminaries in Kansas City, and there was a Methodist seminary. I'd grown up Methodist, so that felt like an alignment. And then their visit day was a couple days later. So I went, and I was like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to take classes. That's all I knew. So I did the curriculum for a Master's of Theology, which is a 3-year program, and I wasn't ready to leave. And so I did another year, which is a divinity program, which allows you to be a Methodist pastor. And I worked in my internship in pastoral counseling. And in that found this love of one-on-one talking to people. In that work found most of what we struggle with, to me, came back to unworthiness, lack of forgiveness for yourself, lack of compassion for yourself. And I started seeing these themes and realizing that's my story too. That's part of my challenge. And there was a night or last minute writing a paper, and I had to preach the next morning on the unconditional love of God. And I was like, do I buy it? I don't know. Feels pretty conditional in a lot of our teachings. And then that led to, wait, that's the root of my unworthiness, is I don't have unconditional love for myself. It's all conditions. If you're producing, if you're successful, if you're making money, if people like you, if you're getting invited to things, it was all, I realized like Ginger's successful, but it was all conditions that I was meeting. And I didn't have this sense of unconditional love for myself and just allowing myself to be without producing. So that led to existential crisis because I couldn't preach on it the next morning if I didn't buy into it. And in that night, I found the research of Kristen Neff and Chris Germer. Chris Germer's at Harvard, Kristen Neff's at UT Austin. They have pioneered now probably 30 years of clinical research on self-compassion. Foreign language to me. It's like, you mean beating the shit out of yourself isn't the way to go? I thought that was the secret
and me
to my
both.
success.
Insecure overachiever over
Exactly.
here.
People pleasing.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? So this was a foreign language. Being kind to yourself, to me, that felt like a slippery slope for weakness or lack of performance or like permission to stay in bed all day. And that's not going to go well. So that just, I woke up to, this is the work I have to do. myself. So for 2 years, I just read all the research, did all the practices, and I could feel, oh my gosh, this lightness coming back into my being of the heavy burden I had carried. Mary Oliver has this line about like crawling on bloody knees. I was like, yeah, Mary, that's what I'm doing. I'm crawling on bloody knees, beating myself up. And so one of my professors, Dr. Kamadzandu from Zimbabwe, said, make this your calling. And I was like, okay. And so I left the church and hung out my shingle, work as a self-compassion coach and working with people on forgiving yourself. And I felt like I wanted to be out of the church because there's so much church hurt and harm that I wanted to be a neutral place where you could discuss that. And I noticed in the building of a church where I was counseling people, there was still this like, I shouldn't say this, or this is wrong. I'm like, no, it's not wrong. You're human. You're having all the feelings and it's okay. So I had this little spot above a Italian restaurant in Kansas City. And it was like 1970s throwback office, 2 chairs, and started my practice 10 years ago. And called it Compassion Fix because to me, self-compassion and compassion for others fixes everything. And that became my little mantra of compassion fixes everything. And that kind of grew and started some momentum. And my therapist friends told people about me, and that grew. And then in 2020, I went to a larger space to start hosting groups. But I moved in March 1st, and to that tripled my rent. And then we shut down everything. And I had to kind of think, wait, I thought I was on my journey. I thought I'd found my purpose, but maybe this isn't it. So even after I had that moment of I found my purpose, I still had hiccups. I still had bumps in the road. But that deep calling to teach compassion, teach love, was the foundation of all of it. And then I grew a team. We got back on our feet after COVID, grew a team, and that's Compassion Fix today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a cool journey.
Yeah.
I want to hop into just some of like the common threads that patients that come in that you see have and tools in which that you find to be like the most effective. I think for me personally, talking about self-love and to like what we're speaking to, it's just, I have been so like outcome oriented my whole life. And
exactly.
If I'm achieving, giving myself that love, but a lot of that love in the last like year and a half has shifted to external validation versus coming like from in my being. And so I want to chat about like some of the principles and tools that you've used to help coach clients through finding that self-love and having compassion for yourself.
Yeah. What you're speaking to is 99% of humans I talk to are looking for that external validation that I'm doing a good job or I'm doing things right. I'm doing the right things. We just need that sense of like, do you see me? Do you approve of me? And that's part of that is primal in our brain of that limbic system needs to belong. And so we feel through external validation, you're happy with me. UC Berkeley has a study that has shown at age 6, a child tunes into, what do you think of me? And so they have this, I call it the spilled milk study, but the child is destined to spill the milk in the study. And it's a topsy-turvy table and a glass that will easily spill. And a 2-year-old's like, yeah, spilled milk. But by 6, it's this like cringe of like, I spilled milk. I'm sorry. I'll clean it up. So they have been able to kind of definitively say by age 6, we're looking for external validation that I'm okay, that you approve of me, that you're not mad at me. And so when you think about all of our brains since age 6, we've been worried about what other people think and looking at those markers. So it's just conditioned in us to look for external validation. I think especially as you and I have done in these career shifts of when you take a leap of faith, you need somebody else to say, good job. But as you know, part of the beauty of a leap of faith is you learn to double down on that intrinsic validation. And I think that's part of the exercise of a leap of faith is, oh, this is where I'm going to find myself. So the thing I think helps clients the most is that becoming aware of the way you talk to yourself. If I had to say one thing that I have noticed I did the math, you know, that, is it, Gladwell that has the 10,000 hours to expert? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, how many hours have I met with people? And I'm like 10,000. I'm right at it.
That's awesome.
I know. And so
It's
I
a
ran
lot
the
of
math.
time.
It's a lot of time. I ran the math with my internship and my coffee shop era of meeting with people before I got the office and then to today. So I would say in those 10,000 hours, the one thing I think everyone could benefit from is becoming aware of the way I talk to myself and what I say when I talk to myself. And to me, that's where we abandon ourselves. That's where we turn on ourselves, deny ourselves. You know, Buddhism has this teaching of the second arrow. So life hits you with one arrow. The second arrow is what I do to myself in that pain. I know. Isn't that so good?
I love that.
I know. It's one of my favorites. I discovered it after I wrote the book, so it'll be in book 2. But it's this idea that I hurt myself. I'm already feeling pain, and now I'm going to beat myself up for that. And somehow that was my fault, and somehow I did something wrong there. And so that's where we really abandon ourselves. So if I think the one tool is listen to how you talk to yourself. Would you say that to a friend? What you just said to yourself, would you ever say that to another human being? And 9 times out of 10, we would never talk to somebody else the way we talk to ourselves. And so then if you could just adjust that self-talk a little bit, you begin to feel less alone on the planet. You've got your own back suddenly. You're not feeling this abandonment deep within you. It's like you and you going through the world. And you hold your own hand when you walk into a room instead of sending you in there, to the wolves alone. So that's the thing I think that is pivotal for people to learn. And then there's so much more, but that would be the starting point.
Yeah, I wrote down the inner roommate, which I know is in the book, referencing Singer's work with the untethered soul of like acknowledging thoughts, but remembering that they're not you and not attaching to those thoughts, but instead like recognizing them as they come through, interpreting them, noticing them.
Yes.
But remembering that just because a thought comes to mind doesn't mean that is, my being and something that I really need to sit with.
When I first read The Untethered Soul, I was early in seminary and somebody had recommended it to me. And I was in so much self-doubt of like, I don't belong in seminary because all of these people felt this divine calling and they were either already pastors or knew they wanted to be pastors. And I was this oddball that just wanted to study theology and didn't want a career from this education. And so I read Untethered Soul at a time where I was in tremendous self-doubt. And that inner roommate chapter, I think it's chapter 3 or 4, it's early in the book, was just this light bulb came on of this commentator I had in my head that I wasn't aware of, and I would realize after I read that chapter, I'd be like in line at the grocery store and I would hear the commentator be like, you picked the slow line. You always pick the slow line. Why do you always get in this line? You should go to that line. Nope. Oh, now that one's moving. And I was like, oh my gosh, this inner roommate is telling me I'm wrong all the time. I'm driving too fast. I'm driving too slow. I picked the wrong thing. So that light bulb is where I really connected with my own self-talk and realized the critic was running the show. So I think I will thank Michael Singer forever for that awareness. And then it was from there that I did what you were saying of like, that is just a thought passing through. I don't have to engage with it. That's part of me having an opinion. That's not the whole of me. And then, also with that of the energy we take on from other people, my true self is calm, loving, peaceful. But my inner roommates are chatter, noise, urgency. Their pace is really fast. And so part of my work is, I wrote on this recently of like, take the elevator down, Ginger, from my head where all the noise and chatter is. And it's like writing down to this peaceful soul. And that's where I have like peace from the inner roommate.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Like coming back into the body.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes.
I think that's a practice that I'm trying to get better at. I think also kind of in this same thread is talking about like uncertainty and being in this place of like reinvention, and to your journey of like, you know, trying a bunch of different things, ultimately landing on what you thought was the purpose or calling and sticking with it. And then ultimately cultivating like a lot of success and helping a lot of people. I imagine at times there was like a lot of uncertainty in your mind and impatience that you see. I can imagine so too. So are there things that you'll tell them as they are looking for those breadcrumbs and trying to find signs of life through that uncertainty to keep in mind as they walk on their own path?
Yeah, it's kind of a formula of a few things. So there's that soul wisdom, that divine within, heaven within, true self, whatever feels right to call it. Those are all synonyms. We're all talking about the same thing: spirit, essence, the core of you. So finding that. Also, I have had to I have this thing called the team of love above. And sometimes it's God, sometimes it's angels, sometimes it's my grandparents, But I'm like, what would you have me know? What would you have me do? So there's this inner wisdom. There's also this realm of wisdom that feels super helpful to me. And so I offer that to people sometimes too. Like if they're struggling with, I can't feel it. I get what you're saying with the soul. I mean, I've had people be like, I have a soul.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to start kind of at the basics sometimes. And I love those conversations because, yes, I go back to Pierre Teilhard's quote about you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And so if you live from that soul, it's beautiful, but sometimes that's hard to access at first. It's unfamiliar, especially if you've been taught anything of like, you're a problem, you're broken, you have a mental illness, you have something we need to try to control. If you've been given those types of teachings, then connecting with that inner voice is really hard, because you've decided something's wrong with you. So then to have a loving voice inside feels really foreign. So that's where I'll sometimes go to like, what would your did you have a grandparent that loved you unconditionally? Okay, what would they say to you right now? And that's where I kind of go to this other realm of accessing for imagination. The other thing I use sometimes if people can't get the kind self-talk is like, what would you say to a puppy or to a dog? You talk to your dog so lovingly, and then you talk to yourself so brutally.
So true.
So like, what would you? So those are the kinds of types of things to access that internal wisdom. But yeah, sometimes I have to go outside to a realm we can't see, and tap into the force of love above us if you don't feel it within you.
Yeah, that's a great one. In my past life, we would work with companies and there was always like a board of directors within the company. And those were like advisors that would, help the management team strategically find their place. And, so then like this concept of having a personal board of directors, and to your point, like in a more loving way, it's the exact same thing of like, yeah, I think that's a really, really cool
I have a client
tool.
that calls it her counsel.
Her counsel,
and I love
that's
that.
great.
She's like, I'm going to ask the counsel. I'm like, perfect, do that. See what
amazing.
the counsel has to say. Yeah.
Yeah, having just like that definitive voice that isn't your own and letting you like step outside your body, I think is really important. Speaking to that, I think something for me that I found very beneficial is like trying to find gratitude throughout my day. And that allows me to tap into that place of love. I know in the book you speak to gratitude a decent bit, but I feel like for me, there's a difference between like really feeling gratitude and like knowing that I'm grateful, but not like truly, sitting in that.
Yes.
Have you found ways to, at least for yourself, sit in gratitude and really feel that emotion?
Yeah, gratitude's tricky for me. Like I forget it. I get in my head and I get in the fight of life and I get in the trying to figure something out, and I have to practice gratitude. One of the things that has helped me, and I call it gratitude with a twist, is not just what you're grateful for, but why am I grateful for it? The why has made it a little deeper for me. So, the and gratitude it's truly a practice that we have to return to, because then it becomes a stance from which we live. But I feel like our brain, our ego, is wired to think all about me and keeping me alive and survival of the fittest. All these kinds of things are in my ego. And so gratitude seems the opposite of ego sometimes. So in my combat with ego, my own uh, challenges with that, I have to come back to, I'm grateful for you, ego. You keep me alive. You help me look both ways before I cross the street. Thanks for protecting me. My ego, I've had to learn gratitude for my ego because I wanted to just fight it. And then that also, like, why am I grateful for that? Has been kind of the second piece of that. So all these parts of me, Richard Swartz, internal family systems work, I think is important. I use that a lot with clients. So there's multitudes inside me, and all of these parts are chiming at the same time, and they all want to vote, and they all want me to do what they want them to do. And so I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for all these complicated parts. And who am I going to listen to today? That has embodied my gratitude practice a little bit more, so I'm accessing it faster. But gratitude's still something I feel like we have to be reminded of. We just lose perspective so easily. And that's our human brain. That's not doing something wrong.
For sure. We get like wrapped up in our own little bubble.
Yeah.
I love the idea of asking the why for gratitude. That's something, I got in the habit of jotting down like what I'm grateful for every day. But I think adding that layer on could really help.
Yeah. Like, why am I grateful for that? It just takes you a little deeper into the feeling.
I read in the book, there's one part that talks about like getting neutral and talking about judgment. And that was something that I loved. Like, I think at times, especially when I'm feeling my inner critic, I like to get outside of Luke and be like, well, at least I'm not doing that.
Yes,
or like,
exactly.
It gives me permission to be judgmental of other people. And I thought the neutral bit was really interesting. If you can speak to that.
I have a retreat coming up that I'm leading in Florida, and this is going to be one of the primary teachings.
Cool.
Because it's a challenge. To make everything neutral is a challenge. So we're going to do a workshop on it coming up. And it is this idea. I'll use the rain, for example, because to me, that was the way I could learn this the easiest. It is going to rain outside, whether Ginger likes it or not. So the rain is neutral. It's coming. I can choose whether it ruins my day or whether I roll with it, or whether it's the greatest thing ever. And so everything is neutral. And that challenges people because they're like, no, it's right or wrong. But everything is neutral until I label it good or bad. Truly. And it is such a mental exercise to get to neutral. But if you go back to neuroscience, that a belief is just a repeated thought. So I have these held beliefs that feel so deeply important. That's just because I've thought that a lot of times, that it became a belief. It created a neural pathway in my brain. So it feels so true, but really it's just a repeated thought. That began, that item, whatever that belief is, it's really neutral. It's really not good or bad. And so you're getting at how this could help us with a judgment detox in ourselves is, if I go back to everything is neutral, everything everybody is doing is neutral, but then I have this little inner tantrum about it, that's only causing me to get off track and out of alignment with my own inner peace. And so I love that resonated with you, because to me, that's one of the trickier practices in the book.
Mm-hmm.
People just want to flip by that one
Yeah.
and stick with their opinions.
For sure.
Yeah. And so that's really cool. It resonated with you, Luke, because I think that one truly is the path to inner peace, if you can get there.
Yeah. And I imagine has a lot of ties to the work you've been doing on religion as well, with Buddhism and equanimity and the idea that, we only have control of how we interpret information, thoughts. And if you allow yourself to like see something coming at you and instead of reacting to it, like let it settle in your body and watch how your body reacts, then you can catch yourself before you react to the reaction in your body.
Oh, yeah. That pause, that 2-second pause before you react is everything.
Yeah.
And then if we can just stretch out those 2 seconds a little longer. Yes. If we were all doing that, we would have peace.
I know.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Vipassana?
Yes.
I don't know if we've talked about this.
Yes. It's that peace within you, that groundedness. I think earlier you referred to it like heaven within. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no,
that's it.
For me, that's something that stuck after doing that was just like noticing, at least trying to cultivate like a practice where I could see my body reacting and before my mind reacts, like just acknowledge that and then sit in that versus like react. And I think that's what the neutrality gets at in the book, which I thought was powerful.
It does. Another thing I've been doing lately that's kind of on that track of that inner stillness is when I feel an emotion, I've been playing with it's with me. It is not me. So sadness. So I'm an empty nester now and I don't love it. That's why I've been in New York so much because my daughter's going to college here.
Well, we love you in New York. You're always welcome.
I'll be back a lot. But I don't love this empty nest feeling. And, it's a change in purpose for sure. It's a change in my nurturing, having something to nurture and love isn't in my family room anymore, except my husband, he would say like, I'm not so bad. We're having fun in the empty nest, but at the same time, I've just noticed this sense of sadness that I hadn't noticed before. And I think I miss the activity of children coming and going and all their friends. And I love the buzz of the house and that's still now. So I have been practicing this. Sadness is with me. It's just here. It's just sitting with me. And that has helped me keep to Ginger's okay. She just has this mental sadness with her, but it's toned down my reactions to it. I don't need to run away from it as much. I don't need to fix it. I don't need to clean it up. I don't need to sanitize it and say, we're good. It's all good. I can just say, yeah, sadness is with me today. And then what do I need? Because sadness is my companion today.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really helped me with this like inner calm lately and silence and breath work and accessing that and not reacting to the emotion, just observing it, as you said. So try the with me.
I love that. And not pushing it away allows you to really feel it and allows you to process it faster, yes. I imagine.
Yes. I think I was always afraid of emotions, that they would be like a tsunami that took me down if I opened the door at all. And so learning to just sit with it and invite it in and saying, yeah, what do you have? Sadness, what would you have me know today? Oh, that my nurturing needs somewhere to go now? Okay. So it's not so scary.
Yeah. Where's the line between like bathing in the sadness and almost like obsessing in it versus like having agency and moving on or like finding other ways to pull yourself out of it?
Yeah, you used the word agency and that's it. It's that choice, remembering I have a choice. And that line is so hard because I think that it's different for each of us. Giving ourselves permission to feel it as long as we need to is important. Like grief is like that. There's no timeline on grief. There's no like, okay, you crossed the grief finish line, now get back out there. I think grief, watching people and walking through grief with them has taught me we're all on our own timeline. And we can be on a slow timeline or we can be on a fast timeline, but everybody needs to kind of allow themselves the timeline that feels best today. And when we rush that, I feel like we don't complete the healing. So wallowing is a hard one because I think we each have to check in with, am I ready to be done with this emotion? No, there's still something here for me to learn. And that might look like wallowing to somebody else, but I have to honor that I'm not done with it yet. And so there is still some processing. But I also think there's some mental toughness. The yin and the yang of self-compassion is I will be super gentle with myself, but also I got to get Ginger back out of bed and functioning again because there's a beautiful life for her. And she's going to miss it if she stays dim and safe forever and sad forever. So there is this like, when am I ready for a little mental toughness to say, you can go do it? And I think one of the things that I've found with people that are super stuck in sadness and grief that helps is serving somebody else. So I think sometimes that self-absorbed, stuckness is because I'm so ruminating on me and I need to go think about somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed people that got a pet came out of it a little bit. People that found a volunteer role came out of it a little bit. People that helped a sick friend came out of their own, it was like, I'm going to go help this person. And I got out of my own wallowing. So if there's a to-do, it might be go find something else to take care of for a little bit. And then you'll feel that life come back.
Absolutely. And even like helping somebody else with the problem that you're currently having, I feel like can sometimes loosen up the grip that you have on your own life.
Totally.
And allow you to then go blossom.
I love that. I think sometimes adversity, the calling of adversity is I'll help someone else with this. So whatever setback or adversity or loss we're feeling, it can help to say, wow, I just learned a lot about this. I have street cred in this suffering. Who could I help? So I love that you said that because I do think that's kind of a step of how could I help some, people that have gone through a cancer diagnosis learn all this stuff they never wanted to learn, but they've learned resources, they've learned who to call, they've learned the shortcuts. And so then they could go help somebody else with that information. And that gets them into a service role easily. And they're not alone in the suffering. No, neither party is alone in the suffering anymore.
I love that. That's beautiful. Over Christmas, we had a conversation starter that at the dinner table that was, if you could put like a couple words on a billboard for the whole world to see, like what would you put? It's one of Tim Ferriss's like great questions that he asks in the podcast. And at the time, mine was comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And now I think it would be different, but I was so consumed in that place of just like looking at other people's success and path and finding like, just I think in that insecurity, it led me to this place of like, man, if I do this the rest of my life, like I will never truly be satisfied and happy. When clients come to you or patients come to you and they say, like XYZ is doing this and, I just feel less than. What are some ways that you help get them out of that comparison place?
Yeah. One of my questions is if you never saw anybody doing what you're doing, how would you feel about what you're doing? And, usually it's, I love it, or I'm doing well, or I find joy in it. But the second we see somebody else doing what I'm trying to do, then, it steals us. So I will think of, I have this disdain for social media and what it's done to our mental health, but also it's connected us. It's a learning tool. We've learned a lot more from it. But I think the comparison thing on social media is wrecking some of us.
Totally.
So if I never saw other people, other creatives doing what I want to do, then I would, for me, it's writing. If I never saw people getting books published, I would just write my book. But when I see somebody else get a book published and I'm like, I don't have a publisher. I want a publisher. How did they get a publisher? Then I start to wallow in that and I don't write then. Totally. It doesn't flow.
Yeah.
And so I have to not look at people that are doing what I want to do. And I thought I was seeking inspiration, but then I realized that's where I start comparing. So I have to do what, so my algorithm I've changed totally to like baby animals and home decor. And I was following publishers and writers, but then I was stealing my joy, and I would stop writing. I'd be like, "Oh, the world doesn't need another book or anything Ginger has to say," because they're listening to all those people. And so now I watch bunnies hop in grass, and then I'm more likely to write.
Totally.
So that idea of like, we have to quit looking. We just have to quit looking.
Yeah.
And then we stop comparing.
It's a tough line too, because to your point, there's a lot of inspiration that can come from that. And I think things or like success that has come in my life a lot of time has been like rooted in that comparison of like, you know, my roommate is doing this and maybe I should be doing that. And there's like some good that comes from that. But when it goes to the extent of just like constantly stealing the joy or sucking the creativity, then it's a problem. And that's like where the boundary, at least for me, needs to come up of like, all right, during my workday, I cannot go on social media or whatever it may be, or just having like little moments where you focus less on others and more on self and service.
And so true, Luke. You're right. We do gain inspiration from other people. So I think maybe then that lane becomes, how does what they're doing help me? And how does what they're doing inspire me? Not they're getting what I want, or they're better at it than I am.
Totally.
So it's that old adage of like, this is happening for me, not to me.
Yep.
You know? So, and I think if you can keep it in that lane, it's really healthy to seek inspiration. And that's a growth mindset, and that's a learning mindset instead of a, I don't have it yet. Scarcity.
Yep.
It's really scarcity. Yeah.
Rick Rubin wrote The Creative Act. I don't know if you've read that one, but he has this awesome idea that has stuck with me too. It's like when an idea is sent down from the universe, it's going to find its like creator, right?
Yes.
And if you have an idea in your head and you don't bring it to life, it will go into another, I think I'm forgetting the word that he used, but like somebody else to bring it to life essentially. And the whole premise of that is that you are not creating something. We are all creating something. And what we should aim for is the highest version of the art or the practice together. So I might take it to this point, right? I might take it to 75% of the way, but somebody else could take that to 90%. But it's our cumulative growth engine for whatever the art may be.
Yes.
And I love that concept.
I love that
because then
so
it's
much.
like team effort, you know?
It is. And like the question is, what's mine to do?
Yeah.
Right? What's mine to do in this creative genius of the collective? Liz Gilbert has a story about that with an idea, a book idea. And she has the same teaching that the ideas are all coming down and who's going to take it. And she had one about an Amazon River story, and she didn't take it. And she put it in a drawer, and she says Ann Patchett published that book, and that idea went to Ann, and Liz says it should have.
It was its time to come to life.
Yes. And I love that also for creative, stealing ideas from each other. I love that teaching of Rick and Liz too, because it's like, if we feel like, hey, that was my idea and you took it, then that helps with that competition piece too of, no, this is all in the collective.
For sure.
And it was Luke's to do, or it was Ginger's to do, or it was Liz or Ann or Rick's to do.
Absolutely.
And that feels so much more loving of service to humanity than I had this idea and I'm going to hold on to it and hoard it for myself.
Yeah. And to the original point of like the comparison, it's less of like me versus you, and like this is art that we're creating together as a humanity or as a being, and bringing that to life together. I think has more, it does, at least of a team effort.
I know. I love that. And I think about that too. Like, how cool is it that in these, let's say we lived to 100, you and I, Luke, we were on the planet, we overlapped our 100 years. And so the humans on the planet right now are creating something. And then we'll all go off and be souls again and maybe come back and we'll be here again creating something. And so it helps me with that scarcity mentality too of like, this is it. I got to hit a home run in this lifetime. No, I don't. One, I might have multiple lifetimes, or I'm here as a contributor to everything happening on the planet right now.
I love it. I want to go back to the point on anxiety and just like social media in general. And my guess is, coaches that you work with and patients that they see or that you see probably, I'm guessing, struggle a lot with anxiety. At least speaking for myself, I do. What are some tools that you've found to be helpful for you over the years and or patients?
Yeah, there's so many. I think the cognitive work, the talk therapy is super important. I also think the embodiment work, somatic practices, all of this nervous system work that we have now, and mental health care is evolving. I feel like we take a couple steps forward and sometimes one back, and then a couple forward and one back. But I think we are starting to integrate so many things: the spiritual life, the physical life, the mental life, and we're beginning to integrate into whole human, holistic therapy a whole lot more. So we have child therapists and teen therapists, and then we have a lot of life coaches in our practice. And we all take this like whole bodied approach to anxiety. So, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? How's your hydration? There's this embodiment stuff. Are you doing your practices? So yoga, breath work, all the kind of tapping practices. That's the embodied piece. And then the cognitive therapy, all of these beautiful tools we have in mental health to help people understand how their brain works, the neuroscience of it. And then in our practice, because of my background, we have this faith element, this spiritual element, not any one faith, but just there is this higher power and there is a bigger picture and there is more than just this. And you are a soul having a human experience. And I think it's the combination of all of that that begins to ease anxiety a little bit. But I think of anxiety as like and just an alarm system that something's off. It's not a problem I have to solve. It's more like, Ginger, pay attention to this. And some of my anxiety is nervousness of like, I want to do this well. And some of my anxiety is I'm making up a story right now. And I created this my imagination is a beautiful gift, but I can use it for good or I can use it for just self-destruction. And so part of anxiety is noticing I'm feeling anxious. What is this? Body, what do you need? Mind, what are you trying to tell me? Soul, what's the answer? And that becomes more of the formula, but it's not any one thing for anxiety.
Do you have a meditation practice currently?
I do.
What do you like to do?
I love silence, but I've had to kind of work to that. I started with guided meditation and I love Insight Timer. And but now I need just the quiet. And I feel that that there's a snow globe practice in my book of like when you shake the snow globe and it's a flurry, and you watch it settle. That one's super helpful for me. So I will picture that and let it all just settle. And then I kind of have this truth of myself that I've come to know. It's taken years to find it, but now I kind of feel like that's what I'm trying to access in the silence. And then Christian mystics, I love studying the Christian mystics, and they their meditation is contemplation. But the definition of contemplation to a mystic is just bask in the love of God. Just remember you're sitting in the love of God. And so that's my meditation practice right now is just, I'm just going to experience the love of God and then the love of humanity and the sun and, the warmth of the sun and then getting to that silence. Yeah, I love it. I crave it.
The snow globe is such a good one. Like since I read that, I've been thinking about it in most of my meditations where like with all these just random distractions and thoughts, like it is such a good analogy. Like we're in our own little snow globe and when you shake it up, like it's chaos. But if you just sit in that silence and give yourself time to let the thoughts settle, like a
Yeah.
lot more clarity comes.
Oh my gosh, my best ideas come
Totally.
after meditation, after treadmill and after meditation, like the movement and stillness.
Me
It's
too.
crazy. Yeah.
I want to ask about you mentioned truth.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like for you?
Yeah. It's such a loaded word a little bit because we've used it in religion to kind of harm people, truth. And so, so I'm on this journey of studying 10 world religions and teaching on them and really looking at the foundational intersections of all of us. So I think of it like different hallways pointing to the same room or different lanterns, same light. And I just wanted to embark on the first 6 months of this year as like, I'm going to find all of the lanterns and prove that it's the same light. And
that is amazing work, by the way. Like so cool.
It's so cool. But to your question of what is my truth? What is the truth? It's subject to each of our interpretations. It's finding it. And I think that's part of the fun of being human is that's what I'm seeking. And I don't, when I think I have it figured out, I don't have it figured out, right? And so it's like just this constant evolution of is that the truth? Is that who I am? Is that what's real? But the beautiful thing is that we're all just on these journeys trying to figure that out. And no one has the answer. If they say they have the answer, run. And that's what I love about the ancient teachings is that we were pondering these things more than definitively saying things. Doctrine and dogma and humans bastardized the original teachings into power and building buildings and then having to pay for those buildings. So we had economic motives. So I like going way, way, way back 18,000 years ago into indigenous spirituality of like, what was your truth as an indigenous person before humans complicated everything? And so that has helped me find my own truth a lot of really the truth is love. And we can define that lots of different ways, but it's the force of love, the love within each of us. I believe that's how we're all hardwired. If you really came back to the truth of yourself, it's love. We just forget that. And then we behave badly when we forget that, or we hurt each other, or we let our ego take over for a moment. But if we came back to the true belief that you are a loving human, you are loved, you are lovable, if that's your truth, then being human gets so much easier.
Very well said. I love that. What are some ways that we can teach ourselves to lead with love?
Yeah. I think it comes from these practices we've talked about too, of coming back to that truth before you walk out the door. If you are rooted in the fact that you are loving and that you love everybody else and that person has the same divinity within that you have, that's namaste. That person is a soul having a human experience just like you are. That if you are rooted in love, then you act in loving ways. But I also think we forget that, and we get these egoic, messages so often of you could be better, or you need this, or that person has what you want, so we're constantly up against that, and we have these complex brains that are like, yeah, I do want that, and then we have to come back to no love. So it's just constantly one of the things that helped me. A teaching from A Course in Miracles was everything comes from fear or love. And you decide which. And it's that simple. And that has really helped me discern my thoughts, my words, my decisions, my actions. Do I want to operate from a place of fear or love? And when I first started that experiment, I was operating out of fear a lot. And I've had to really look at what would the opposite be. Because this feels like what I should do, but that's actually fear motivated. So what would love motivation be? And once I did that for a while, then you start to just kind of naturally become living from a place of love more. But I go in seasons too. You and I were talking about December was rough for both of us. I call that in me going dark. Like I have to I start to be like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And, it's not worth it and all of that stuff. And so but that's all fear coming up. And when I can name it of like, oh, Ginger, you just went into a month of fear. Let's go back to love. Then it's like it clears up again and things start to align and good things happen. And I'm in New York talking to you.
I think that's great. Yeah, I think for me, fear shows up when I'm trying to protect myself.
Exactly.
And in that place of comfortability instead of daring greatly. And
Exactly.
stepping outside that comfort zone into a place of the unknown, the fog, like whatever that looks like.
Yes, for you it's the fog. That's right. I love that. It is foggy.
I want to go back to your work present day and studying these religions. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I took a lot away from being human. But I think there's so much power and showing to the world that a lot of the things that they worship or look to as a god have a lot of similarities and are technically the same thing.
Yes.
Can you talk about some learnings from that work so far and what your ultimate goal is there?
Yeah. I think the ultimate goal is a book. I would love a publisher this time to help me do it because it's a big task. But that's kind of where I'm headed with all this research. I'm trying to write and see what flows. The first book, Being Human, felt like tools to help us be human. And this second book that I'm working on feels like you're a spiritual being. So we're a human being and we're a spiritual being. And so the first book, Being Human, was about, it's 150 tools to help us be human. And
it's
this
awesome,
book,
by the way. If you're listening and you're like just soaking up this knowledge from Ginger, there's like so many examples of things that I'm practicing today because of that book. It's just like subtle reminders with like actionable ways to interpret the knowledge, which is like hard to come by. So quick anecdote.
Well, it was a book I needed myself and I needed it all in one place to remember all my tools. And then I wanted it for my children and then I wanted it for my clients. And so that, it's hard to cross the finish line on a book, but that was the motivation to do it. And then this latest project feels like I really want people to know they are a soul having a human experience. And so when I started with what are the teachings on soul in ancient philosophy or religion, and how did we lose this soul language? Where did that go? Why aren't we all talking about that more? And so that kind of started the quest of the 10 world religions, because then I started to think, I want to know what they say about being human. I want to know what they say about God or a higher power or a force beyond, bigger than us. And I want to know what they say about compassion and love. And so I just started with the research. And when I was in seminary, the electives in seminary were world religions, and I took every one I could. So Native American spirituality and Islam and Judaism, and I loved all of that research and the excuse to write papers. So I've pulled all that back out and then, done so much more research on what are the teachings of these faiths. And that has lit up this part of me that is we have existential questions. We have emotional, psychological questions. We have questions of belonging. We need to belong. And so religion has given us that of like-minded people coming together. And then we have mortality questions. What happens next and when we die? And what I see in all 10 of these are teachings on those topics. And so I was kind of anti-religion coming out of seminary because I saw how much harm it had done to people. But I'm coming back to, religion isn't the problem. Humans corrupting it are the problem. But these religions give us some ground structure to being human. And they formed out of all of us having questions and looking for answers. And, native teachings they originate with, we're in a drought. Rain came from up there last time. I'm looking to the sky for rain. It came and a prayer life is born, right? Of like, that worked. So all of these things, if you go back to where humans were asking questions, we're all asking the same questions.
Mm-hmm.
Different languages, different continents, different cultures, same questions.
On the spiritual being front, an analogy that I love that I don't know if you would technically agree with, but I feel like might be your shade. A friend told me a couple years ago, and it's stuck with me since. Like, we're all leaves on a tree, and that tree is like consciousness.
Love it.
And we fall, we die
Yes.
at different times, but we're replanted within that soil and then reborn into the tree. But I'm
Love it.
curious, like after doing this work, well, not after, but while doing this work, where does your mind go in terms of like, you know, the afterlife and mortality and death? What does that look like for a spiritual being versus, you know, humans and us existing right here on this couch?
One of the things that's been really fun to unpack is the different kind of teachings of this end, if there's a judgment at the end or not. And, you know, some religions have this kind of judgment being that you'll get a scorecard and then your afterlife is determined by that. And some religions don't have that at all. It's more the tree consciousness kind of teaching, which I love. And so it's interesting because I look at those judgment doctrines and feel like those are fear-based religion, right? Those are manipulative, keep people in line. We'll scare you about the afterlife, and then you'll behave the way we want you to behave. Because it's all unknown. And I love that video. It circulates every once in a while on social media of like the two babies, twins in the womb, and they're talking about how scary it is to be born and how that world is going to be so scary. And I love it because the artist that created it originally was coming from the perspective of we're all so scared of afterlife, right? And we would tell those babies, it's going to be great. You're going to have a fun life. But they're terrified to come into this world. So I feel like that is why we seek out this teaching on the afterlife and why religions speak to it so much. But where I am right now today, as I am 80% through my research, is that we are the soul having a human experience. And I actually love the teachings of Jainism and Hinduism where that soul comes back and it's constant. And we will continue to circulate through different lifetimes. And I think of this helped me understand why some people are old souls and why they just are born with so much wisdom and how, oh, wait, they've been human before and they have gone through this and learned some lessons and, you know, and then they're back. But the goal is this consciousness, like your tree example, that we're raising our consciousness every time a new leaf comes back, you know, so it goes into the soil and it comes back to the tree and the consciousness rises.
So
cool. So that's kind of where I am today.
I'm so excited for you and I'm excited to pick it up and read it. I took a lot away from being human. So I know this one is going to be equally exciting.
We'll see. It's you know, back to Rick Rubin's idea that the ideas are floating around. I mean, lots of people have written on spirituality, and so I could just say, okay, the books are out there. But there's something that just keeps coming back to me about this, and like it is mine to do, whether it's an audience of one or if it's just for me to write to unpack all of this. But as you know, as a creative, we have to honor these things when they keep coming back around.
Totally.
And this is one of those.
Yeah. And also like the person that you become through the process of writing a book like this is so important, right?
Yeah.
It's like your own journey. Like that's something that I'm trying to appreciate now more than ever is like the benefit, or I guess the what you get from an outcome is not the outcome itself. What you get from an outcome is the person that you become in the process of that outcome. And for this example, in like writing a book on religion and studying the self and spirituality and just higher consciousness, like you become more aware of all these different parts of yourself and the world and the universe. And
it comes out in conversations
for
with
sure.
people.
Yeah.
And, you know, and maybe it's just that ripple effect a little bit. I started doing a monthly talk on these in Kansas City. As I was doing it, I wanted to share the stuff and kind of see how it landed. And then, you know, that's helping me write the book. And people's responses have been so fun. And that has helped me too, of like, okay, this is something we're all kind of churning and feeling. But then that has helped me confirm that, like, it is evolving something in me. I'm noticing what I'm talking about is changing, and my perspectives are changing. And I'm offering perspective where I couldn't before I'd done this research. So I think that ripple effect, if nothing else, is worth doing too.
Absolutely. I love that. The last point I wanted to bring up was on the newsletter.
Yes,
so
yes.
I have been a subscriber to the newsletter now for I think a couple months since we met, and I'm loving them every Tuesday morning.
Yes, every Tuesday.
Can you talk a little bit about consistency and how that develops trust within self? And I have a friend who phenomenal writer and has a lot of wisdom to give, but I think is encountering resistance with the capital R, Stephen Pressfield.
Yes.
And finding like examples to, or hurdles in her way to just like getting something out there and like getting in the habit of iterating and like applying consistency into her life. So as somebody in that position, can you speak to your journey with consistency and building trust in self?
Yeah. I would say if there's one thing I have done in the last 10 years that was worth doing, it's that Tuesday email, mainly because it held me accountable for a creative endeavor. And now that you're saying that, The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield's book, was a huge instigator for me, because the way he names resistance, personifies it. I could feel that like pushing me back from doing it. And so it was kind of the war of art as I took that on. And I started with a very small distribution list and just was like, this is what I'm learning right now. I started it when I was in seminary, and I just want to share it. And then it turned into, then after seminary, I studied neuroscience. And so I would share more brain kind of things of like, this is cool. Nobody's taught me this before. And so the Tuesday email has kind of seasons of whatever I'm learning at the time. But the intent was always, I'm going to share something every week that helps make being human a little easier. And that's just the vision of the newsletter. It's just a quick 5-minute read that is something to think about. And I had to, for your friend that's feeling the resistance, I had to really work on why am I doing this? And had to accept that not every Tuesday email is going to land with every human. But if most of them land with somebody, then it's doing something. But what it really did for me was it was practice for me as a writer. I always felt I had a book in me, but I didn't know what it was about, and I just needed to write. And I remember doing this exercise of like verbs and nouns, and like, if you want to be a writer, you need to write, so the noun and the verb. And so I was like, Ginger, you want to be a writer, but you are not writing. And so that became kind of if I want the noun, I got to do the verb. And so it was really just accountability, sharing what I was learning. I believe you get something deeper when you teach it. So whatever you're learning, teach it, and you'll get it deeper. And so it was an exercise in that. And then what's so fun about that newsletter is people would share them. At first it was moms sharing with kids, and I'm sure kids were like, thanks, Mom. And they just went in trash. But those kids have grown up in the 8 years, and now they're sending them to people. And I love it when somebody writes me back and tells me how it's applied to their life. Oh my gosh. I just did a quirky one on how when I see the time on the clock and it's somebody's birthday, I send gratitude for them or love to them, beam love to them. So, it's like 9/18 is my birthday. So I just send love to myself when I see 9/18, and 5/22 is my daughter, and 8/11 is my son, and 10/03 is my husband. So when I see those, it's been a gratitude practice. Well, the feedback I got on that one, and I almost didn't send it out because I was like, this is a quirky gingerism that is not universal, and
we love the gingerisms.
It taught me to embrace that a little bit more.
Sure.
The quirky is what we're longing for. So I got the sweetest notes back of people saying what they have noticed at a certain time, and they didn't know anybody else did that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is being human.
Yeah.
This is the coolest part of being human.
For sure. And sharing that part of yourself too,
Yes.
that
Yes.
you might interpret as quirkiness, but we
Yes.
interpret as like the beautiful being that is Ginger. And
Yes.
like for me in creativity and just in general, like when I'm trying to think about, ooh, what would somebody else like versus
Exactly.
like, what do I do? Like
Exactly.
I have a practice where a couple times a day I try to like wiggle my toes and just like feel the ground.
Yes.
And it's like a couple seconds that just grounds me in, and it's weird for sure.
I love it.
But I think getting in the practice of trying to show that true expression of
Yes.
ourselves and communicate like our true essence, like
Yes.
that is being human, you know?
Exactly.
And there's that expression within all of us. It's like
Yep.
finding it, sharing it, and being comfortable in that you do so well.
Wow.
So I'm really excited for you in this new chapter. The last bit that I wanted to touch on too, that I think was a nugget from this last conversation, was the question, what would this look like if it were fun? And for the newsletter for you, like it sounds like you found something that you learned by doing, and also you found was giving to other people, in that service that we touched on the early part of the podcast. And for me, applying that question to just life in general.
Right.
And when I overcomplicate something, it's like,
Yes.
well, what would this look like if it were fun? Like break it down into
Exactly.
first principles thinking.
Yes.
And that has unlocked so much.
Me too. That's one of my favorite practices in the book, because I realized I was making everything hard and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And unloading the dishwasher was like, oh,
Yeah.
why me?
Adopting your inner child, I think, is what you use. It's like, what would this look like if it were fun?
and easy?
Yeah.
I'll put on music and I'll dance while I do the
Yes.
dishwasher. Yes, that one is such a quick shift of energy. I love that one. You highlighted all my personal favorites.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I wanted to end just by asking if there were any other topics or things that we missed or that you wanted to touch on.
I think I would just want everybody to know they are, at their essence, a loving soul, and go live from that place. And remember, all this stuff of being human is temporary and just stuff, and we can get through it, and find your people to get through it with. I think tonight, I got to write my Tuesday email, but I think tonight's is going to be, 3 things that every human needs: someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And so that lately has just been my little recipe for getting through the day. What do I love? What do I love doing? And then what am I looking forward to? And if we just all hung on to those things, we could get through day after day after day.
I love it.
Yeah.
Where can people follow along the Ginger journey?
Yeah. So my blog is at gingerrothhaas.com, which is hard. It's Ginger and then another Rothhaas.
I'm glad you said that for me.
I know, exactly. gingerrothhaas.com. And then Compassion Fix is our business website, and we have lots of resources out there with this amazing team of people. I've been so lucky to have these beautiful souls show up and want to serve people. And so Compassion Fix is in Kansas City, but I know you have a New York audience. We do Zoom sessions too. So we do virtual sessions as much as we do in person. And then this Tuesday email, you can subscribe to that at gingerrothhaas.com, or if you subscribe on Compassion Fix, you'll get the Tuesday email too. So
Amazing.
Either way.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank
Welcome
you.
to New York City.
Thanks, I love it.
Very excited for you.
Thanks, Luke.